We recognize, the three of us recognize that not everybody agrees about climate change or the roles of fossil fuel, but we find ourselves persuaded by the findings of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and they echo the views of a great many other people. In a statement on global climate change, they said, and I quote, "Multiple studies published in peer-reviewed scientific journals agree that climate warming trends over the past century are extremely likely due to human activities, and most of the leading scientific organizations worldwide have issued public statements endorsing this position." They go on to conclude, "Observations throughout the world make it clear that climate change is occurring, and rigorous scientific research demonstrates that greenhouse gases emitted by human activities are the primary driver."
We're here today, as Jim Grismer mentioned, to talk about the University of Denver's endowment, in particular its characteristics, and in general how universities use their endowments. We're here today to provide background information, and we're not advocating either way on this topic. We're providing, hopefully, information that will be useful to you in your deliberations. What we'll be presenting today is an update of a presentation that Margaret, Chancellor Chop, and I made to the Faculty Senate in January of 2016 about more or less the same topic. It was, how does the endowment's footprint, if you will, affect the overall finances of the university?
The gentleman in my office that helped us with this, his title of this is Endowment Ins and Outs 101. So I'll breeze through some of this, but just the definition of endowment, very simply, true endowments come to the university designated or restricted by the donor. So the donor says this is to be endowed. Quasi-endowments, the other way around, they are funds functioning as endowments, but the board is the one that designates funds, those funds to be endowed. Just to quantify that for the University of Denver, at March 31st, our endowment was valued at $607 million. 275 of that would be true endowments, and 332 million would be quasi-endowments. As part of the University of Denver's endowment, we have over 1,200 individual endowment funds with specific restrictions on each one.
The divestment discourse sort of lives in two realms, the financial realm and the moral realm. So we're sort of focused on the financial arguments here. What this graph sort of shows is in real investment dollars that, for example, $1,000 invested in Shell at the beginning of 2012 would have fallen to under $800 by the end of 2015, where the same amount invested in the S&P 500 would have risen to over $1,700. This is something that institutional investors are looking at in a big way because of the sort of like risk that's inherent in these investments showing up in real dollars. So for example, the University of Toronto published a paper that said that their fossil fuel holdings had lost over the last 3 years, or since the students launched the divestment ask at their school, $550 million, or enough to pay full-time tuition for all 14,000 students for 4 years.
If indeed, despite their best intentions,
they don't follow through.
Globally, none of these countries historically have fallen through with the targets that have already been set.
Agreed.
So if that continues forward and they're not meeting their targets, then your supposition that fossil fuel companies will go out of business because nobody's going to be buying their products might well be a flawed analysis of what might the future hold, since none of us know what the future holds, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we're in all of this, we are gazing into our crystal balls a bit.
I mean, I guess I would respectfully disagree that we're not talking about crystal balls. We're talking about hard science.
No, I'm talking about the future.
Right, of the fossil fuel industry, who cannot burn their proven and probable reserves and still exist. I guess what I'm saying is that the projections that the global scientific community have laid out for us is that a 2-degree increase in global warming would be catastrophic, and that a 5 to 6 degree average of global warming, which is what the proven and probable reserves of the fossil fuel industry holds in stake, is an unlivable planet.
It's easy to think of this in a kind of a binary way, but clearly it's much more complex than that in terms of the range of alternatives, in terms of even being able to look through your portfolio and see who's got what. So it's important that we understand that.
That's right.